Open your eyes, dear Adam. See what God and your brethren have created. For searching breathes knowledge, and knowledge is only a sin to those that forget to seek it.
Ah, Florence, my dear city of splendor and intellect, where minds are sharpened like the blades of a master swordsman. The year is 1492, and I, Marcus Antonio, humble scribe and budding archaeologist, stand at the crossroads of antiquity and Renaissance. My days are spent surrounded by manuscripts of Cicero and Livy, the scent of ink mingling with the dust of old vellum, a perfume, I must confess, sweeter than any rose. It is an age of rediscovery, where men like me, scholars of forgotten times, are tasked with the grand duty of carrying the torch of knowledge from the past into the future. Yet with all this brilliance, this magnificent thirst for learning, I find myself haunted by the wisdom we seem so quick to ignore, the wisdom of Rome, of virtue, the very virtues that forged a great republic, now relegated to the dusty corners of bookshelves, while men chase ignoble pleasures like children running after shadows on a wall. You might wonder why I bother, why I waste my breath railing against ignorance when it so often seems to be the favoured choice of my contemporaries. I shall tell you why. Because these virtues, these ancient Roman virtues, are not mere relics. They are the very foundation of what we indeed, what humanity should aspire to become. And it is this noble aspiration that we call the Renaissance spirit. But the Renaissance spirit, it is not merely a pursuit of learning. No, it is a journey of the soul, of the heart and the mind, guided by reason and compassion. It is not enough to simply read the works of Aristotle or Cicero. Nay, we must live their lessons, embrace their virtues and banish the vices that rot society from within. And so, dear traveller, I shall guide you through the Curria Virtutis Et Sapientiae, the hall of virtue and wisdom. Together we shall walk among the pillars that uphold the Renaissance spirit. Each pillar represents a virtue and on its reverse, a vice. For as all things in life, there is balance. Light cannot exist without shadow. And how do I know the Renaissance spirit, you may ask? I am the key keeper of the Curia, a fellow traveller on the path to truth and wisdom. But beware, as in any good story of epic quests, there is an antagonist lurking in the shadows, eager to trip us in our noble pursuit. Our foe is none other than Mercury, the god of trickery, deceit, and greed. He would see us fall prey to the very vices we seek to overcome. And so, as we begin our journey, let us stay vigilant, for the road to virtue is fraught with peril, and the greatest peril is within us. Our first stop is the pillar of the civic man, the most important pillar in a republic, for it represents what we owe to the state and to each other. As we enter the grand hall, towering columns rise before us, each one a testament to the human spirit's capacity for both greatness and folly. Atop this first pillar stands a statue of the goddess Civitas, hand in hand with Minerva, symbols of wisdom and civic duty. Oh, how noble they stand. Civitas, the very embodiment of civic virtue, what we owe not just to ourselves, but to our fellow citizens. The reverse, of course, hides the figure of Janus, the two-faced god, and with him stands a soulless sociopath, indifferent to the suffering of others, caring nothing for the state or the common good. You see, it is easy to claim love for your country, your community, your fellow man, but love without duty is nothing but vanity. We are bound by concord, humility, patience, and compassion, but above all, by reason. Reason guides us to speak out against injustice, to stay informed, to participate in the workings of government. If we fail to uphold our civic virtues, society crumbles. And mark my words, this is not hyperbole. It is the fate of all republics where apathy, ignorance, and vanity hold sway. But do modern societies heed these lessons? Ha! If only. Instead, they close their ears to the whispers of history, preferring the seductive allure of self-interest. Look around you, my dear viewer. Do you not see the Januses of today? Those who cloak themselves in the guise of patriotism, yet sow division and distrust. Who fatten themselves on the fruits of the earth, while the tree itself withers. These are the enemies of the Renaissance spirit, enemies of all that is just and equitable. And if we do not fight against them, if we do not embrace reason and compassion, then we are complicit in our own downfall. Ah, but I digress. Mercury would laugh at my despair, so let us press on. There are more pillars to explore, more virtues to embrace, and more importantly, there are vices to avoid. For if we are to be true stewards of the earth, if we are to truly live the Renaissance spirit, we must first conquer ourselves. Stay close, for as we move deeper into the hall, we come face to face with the pillar of Domus. What are our duties to those closest to us, our families, our households? And what happens when those duties are neglected? Expect a surprise visit from Mercury, who takes a particularly twisted joy in turning family obligations into burdens of greed and vanity. The next pillar awaits, and with it, the next lesson. We continue our journey, deeper into the Curria Virtutis Et Sapientiae, where the grand columns stretch upward as if trying to reach the heavens themselves. I lead you now to the next pillar, the pillar of Domus, for no man is an island. His responsibilities extend beyond himself, to the hearth, the home, and those bound to him by blood and love. Atop the pillar of Domus stands Vesta, the goddess of the hearth, whose eternal flame warms not only the home, but the hearts of those within it. Labour, gravitas, love, temperance, these are the virtues that hold this pillar aloft. You see, a man's home is more than just a roof over his head. It is his sanctuary, the foundation of his character, the place where his virtues are tested not by grand speeches in public squares, but by the quiet demands of daily life. It is where patience is worn thin, where love is tested by the weight of obligation, and where duty, if left unfulfilled, can collapse everything in a single devastating fall. The pillar is also a reminder of what we owe to our human family, our ancestors, our posterity, and the continuum of time we find ourselves on. We owe it to our family to live upright lives and do them justice, to consider our ancestors and our legacy in our every decision. But what do I see lurking behind the pillar? Oh yes, there he is, Mercury, with his mischievous grin and glittering eyes. He points to the reverse of the pillar, where the statue of a rich man stands, cold and indifferent, handing out coins not in charity, but in smug vanity. The man gives with no heart, expecting praises for what amounts to mere scraps. Mercury chuckles, for he knows all too well how easily the virtues of Domus can be twisted into burdens of greed and selfishness.
Why bother?
Mercury sneers, appearing at my side, his voice slick with sarcasm.
Your family will be fine. Let them fend for themselves. You have more important things to do, more important people to impress. Oh, and when you do, help, make sure everyone sees it. What good is virtue if no one is watching?
He leans in closer, conspiratorial.
In fact, why not use your family as a stepping stone? Surely their comfort and needs are less important than your ambition.
There it is, the poison of modern thought. In today's world, where success is measured by wealth and status, the simple virtues of Domus love, labour, temperance are seen as quaint, if not outright burdensome. How easily we forget that a neglected home breeds not only discontent but decay. The man who cannot tend to his own hearth will soon find himself without one, cast adrift in a sea of vanity and ambition. And worse yet, the neglect of our domestic duties spills out into society. The fraying of family ties mirrors the unravelling of the social fabric itself. If we cannot care for those closest to us, how can we possibly care for our communities or our planet? But surely, I hear you say, surely modern society hasn't forgotten this lesson. I'm afraid the truth is as ironic as it is tragic. Today, men and women alike are praised not for how they nurture their families, but for how much wealth they accumulate, how many accolades they collect. We have turned our backs on Vesta, trading the warmth of the hearth for the cold glitter of gold. And what has it gotten us? Families in disarray, communities fractured, and the earth itself groaning under the weight of our neglect. We pursue ignoble pleasures, status, wealth, power, while the very foundation of our lives, our homes, crumble around us. As we press further into the Curria Virtutis Et Sapientiae, the pillars become more sombre, their weight not just architectural but moral. Now we arrive at the pillar of the shepherd, representing one's responsibilities to his friends, to his community, and to the earth. Here our journey takes a darker turn. This is no longer about the warm hearth or the quiet sanctity of home. No, the stakes here are much higher. This pillar bears the weight of the earth itself, being held by a shepherd, cradling a globe not of marble, but of delicate glass, shimmering as though it could shatter at the slightest misstep. The virtues that hold this pillar aloft are trust, gravitas, patience, solidarity, and the deepest love, a love that extends beyond family and friends to the entire web of life. But look closer, and you will see more. Equality, justice, charity, and perhaps most poignantly, conservation and preservation. For this pillar represents our responsibility to care for more than just ourselves. It is a solemn reminder that we are stewards of the world, bound not just to our fellow man, but to the earth and all the creatures that dwell upon it. Of course, Mercury lurks once again. You'd think a god with such wings on his feet would have the decency to leave us in peace, but no. There he stands, his smile sharp as a dagger. He motions to the reverse of the pillar, where a lone Roman soldier stands in an empty field. His comrades are long gone, victims of battle and neglect. This soldier, left to die under an indifferent sky, represents the bleak fate of a world where stewardship is abandoned, and where men think only of themselves. Mercury, ever the cynic, wastes no time.
Ah, the pillar of the shepherd,
he says, rolling his eyes.
How quaint, how noble. But tell me, Marcus, do you really think anyone cares about this responsibility? Look around you, forests are felled for profit, oceans choke on waste, and the air itself grows heavy with poison. And yet, what do people do? They shrug. They pretend not to see. They convince themselves that one man's actions don't matter.
His voice drips with sarcasm, but beneath it, I hear the terrible truth. Modern man, in all his arrogance, has convinced himself that he is above nature, that the earth is his to command, rather than his to nurture. And it is in this arrogance that the great failure lies. For every man who sees himself as a master, there are 1,000 more who must live with the consequences of his hubris.
Why bother caring for the earth?
Mercury continues, his voice taking on a biting edge.
It's not like you'll live long enough to see it all fall apart, right? Let the next generation deal with it. After all, you've got more important things to worry about, like how much profit you can wring from what's left of the world.
There it is. The selfishness, the greed, the utter lack of foresight that defines the modern world. We've forgotten that our time here is fleeting, that we are but temporary custodians of a planet that will outlast us all. And yet, for all our knowledge, for all our advancements, we have turned our backs on the most basic truth, that we are connected to the earth in ways we cannot escape, and that to harm it is to harm ourselves. I turn to you now, my fellow traveller, and ask, have we learned nothing from the past? Ancient Rome fell not because of some great cataclysm, but because of the slow rot of corruption, apathy, and the unchecked greed of a few at the expense of the many. And yet, here we are again, watching as modern societies repeat the same mistakes, ignoring the lessons of history even as the earth itself begins to cry out in pain. But Mercury is not done. He flits in front of me, blocking my path, his eyes gleaming with mockery.
And what of climate change, dear Marcus? Surely you've heard of this modern disaster.
He waves a hand dismissively.
But no one takes it seriously. It's just the natural order of things, right? Earth's been through worse. Why should you worry about a little global warming. Besides, it's too late to stop it now, isn't it?
Ah, how easy it is to fall into the trap of apathy. Mercury's words sting because they are rooted in a terrible truth. Too many people believe that the problems are too big, too far-reaching, for any one person to make a difference. And so they do nothing. They choose ignorance and inaction, thinking it spares them from guilt. But in reality, it only accelerates our collective downfall. As we walk further along the pillar of the shepherd, the message becomes clear. Our responsibilities do not end with ourselves, nor with our families or friends. They extend outward, to the world itself, to the earth that gives us life. We are all shepherds, whether we like it or not, and the choices we make today will echo long into the future. So, I say to Mercury, my voice steady, you think no one cares? You think it's too late? He shrugs, nonchalant, as though the fate of the planet were a mere afterthought. But I know better, and so do you. The Renaissance spirit demands that we rise above this cynicism, that we embrace the virtues of the shepherd. For if we fail to do so, if we turn our backs on the earth and each other, then we will surely share the fate of that lonely Roman soldier, standing in an empty field, the last survivor of a battle no one cared to win. The choice is ours, my fellow travellers. Will we be shepherds, or will we be conquerors, blind to the destruction we leave in our wake? As we leave the pillar of the shepherd behind, I sense Mercury fading into the shadows, though I know he will return. For ahead lies the pillar of spiritual ascendancy, where we must confront not just the earth and our fellow man, but the very meaning of life itself. The journey grows more perilous by the step, but we press on for the Renaissance spirit, and for the future we must build. Ahead looms the pillar of spiritual ascendancy, where the great questions of existence weigh heavy upon the soul. Here we will face not only Mercury's mockery, but the deeper challenge of understanding our place in the universe. Expect a confrontation with the spectres of doubt, ignorance, and the ignoble pleasures that seek to lead us astray from the pursuit of truth and meaning. I can see Mercury grinning now, delighted at the mess we've made.
Oh, do go on.
He whispers, his voice dripping with irony.
Tell them how to fix it. I'm sure they're eager to listen.
But fix it we must, for the Renaissance spirit demands that we embrace these virtues, that we labour not just for our own gain, but for the well-being of those we love. A man who understands his duties at home will better understand his duties to the world. And yet, even as Mercury's words weigh heavy on my heart, I remember something. The Renaissance spirit is not about seeking easy answers. It is about the pursuit of wisdom, about the journey itself, not the destination. It is about striving for virtue and understanding, even in the face of uncertainty. I turn to Mercury, meeting his gaze. You may be right, I say, my voice steady. Perhaps there is no grand design. Perhaps life is a series of random events, without rhyme or reason. But that does not mean we are powerless. We may not know the ultimate purpose of our existence, but we do know that we are here now. And in this moment, we have the power to choose to live with integrity, to seek truth, to build a better world for those who come after us. Mercury's smile falters, just for a moment. He was not expecting this. He was expecting despair, nihilism, resignation. But I am not so easily defeated. We may never find the answer to life's greatest question, I continue. But that does not absolve us of our responsibility to live well, to be good, to strive for something greater than ourselves. Even if the universe is indifferent, even if the gods are silent, we are not. We have a voice, we have a will, and we have the capacity to create meaning through our actions, through our love, through our compassion. For the first time, Mercury is at a loss for words. He stares at me, his eyes narrowing, as though he is trying to comprehend something beyond his grasp. You see, Mercury, I say, stepping forward, the Renaissance spirit is not about certainty. It is about the search, the journey. the pursuit of wisdom and virtue in a world that often seems chaotic and unjust. It is about accepting that we may never have all the answers, but that does not mean we should stop asking the questions. As I speak, the fog around the pillar of spiritual ascendancy begins to lift, revealing a path that winds upward toward the heavens. It is a path shrouded in mystery, but it is also illuminated by the faint glow of hope. The hope that, in seeking meaning, we may find something even more profound. A sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, a sense of connection to the universe and to each other. I glance back at Mercury, who now stands in silence, his grin replaced by a thoughtful frown. He knows that this battle is far from over, but for now I have the upper hand. We are not alone in this journey, I say, turning to you, my fellow traveller. The path ahead may be uncertain, but we walk it together. And in doing so, we create meaning, we create purpose. That is the essence of the Renaissance spirit. With that, we leave the pillar of the shepherd, knowing that while the answers may still elude us, the questions themselves are what drive us forward. For in seeking we find, and in finding, we grow. And that perhaps is the greatest meaning of all. With the echoes of the pillar of the shepherd still heavy in the air, we now arrive at the pillar of spiritual ascendancy, the most ethereal and mysterious of all the pillars. This towering edifice reaches upward, its peak disappearing into the fog of the heavens. It is a testament to mankind's eternal quest to understand not just the physical world, but the very meaning of life itself. This pillar is unlike any other. There are no grand depictions of heroes, no carved representations of battles won or lost. Instead, it is inscribed with a single question that haunts the soul of every thoughtful person as a message on a plaque that reads, Qui cur hie figuraverit statuam superhanc statuam ponat. Or in English, the man who figures out why he is here may put a statue upon this pillar. It is a question as old as time, one that has consumed philosophers, mystics, and sages for millennia. And yet, for all the ink spilled and all the prayers offered, no definitive answer has ever been found. It is a mystery, a riddle that refuses to yield to reason or logic. As I stand before this pillar, I feel a deep sense of awe, but also a gnawing fear. For if there is no answer, if life is indeed meaningless, then what are we to make of all our struggles, our victories, our sacrifices? Before I can dwell too long on these troubling thoughts, Mercury reappears, as if summoned by my doubts. His grin is wider than ever, his eyes dancing with mischief.
Ah, Marcus, you look troubled,
he says, feigning concern.
Is the weight of existence becoming too much for you? Or perhaps you're finally realizing that all this, your virtues, your values, your quest, it's all for nothing. After all, if there's no purpose to life, then why bother with any of it?
His words slice through the air like a blade, and I feel a chill run down my spine. Mercury, as always, knows exactly where to strike. He plays on the deepest fears of man, the fear of insignificance, of being forgotten, of living a life devoid of meaning. He circles around me, his voice smooth and seductive.
You see, Marcus, the truth is that most people don't want to know the answer. They distract themselves with trivialities, with pleasure, with power, with wealth, anything to avoid confronting the terrifying possibility that there is no grand design. And why should they? It's easier to live in ignorance, to simply drift through life without asking the hard questions.
I know what Mercury is doing. He is sowing doubt, hoping to shake my resolve. But I also know that this is the greatest test of all, the test of the spirit. For it is one thing to face external challenges, to battle enemies and overcome obstacles, but it is quite another to confront the void within, to grapple with the existential questions that have no easy answers. path from the pillar of spiritual ascendancy has led us to yet another grand structure, towering high in the distance. As we approach, the air feels different, thick with the weight of decisions made and the consequences that follow. This is the pillar of honor and justice, a monument to humanity's ceaseless struggle with morality, leadership, and the wielding of power, and represents grace, fortitude, wisdom, patience, clarity, prudence, and judiciousness, the type of life we should live, and the desire for betterment and growth. For living a just and honorable life is its own reward. The pillar of honor and justice, also known as the pillar of the resilient, is no simple structure. Carved from dark marble, its base is adorned with scenes of trials, councils, and coronations, a reminder of the burden that authority brings. Above it rise figures of the most revered leaders of history, both celebrated and notorious men and women who grappled with the tensions of power and principle. At its center is a massive scale, perfectly balanced, its two arms holding the opposing forces of mercy and retribution. Here, we are faced with the essence of justice, a virtue that has tested every civilization, including our own.
The pillar of lofty ideals.
Mercury's voice rings out from behind me once more. His presence, however, does not rattle me as it did before. I have come to expect his arrival at these critical junctures, always eager to undermine the virtues we hold dear. He strides toward the scale, his eyes gleaming with mischief.
Justice,
he says, toying with the word as though it is nothing more than a bauble in his hand.
Such a noble concept, isn't it? And yet so easily corrupted.
He gestures to one of the bas-reliefs on the pillar, a depiction of an ancient trial, where a group of men clad in regal robes pass judgment on a lone figure bound in chains.
You see, Marcus' justice is rarely about right and wrong. It's about power. Those who control the scales, those who make the laws, decide what is just.
His words resonate with a dark truth. History is filled with moments when justice was twisted to serve the interests of the powerful, when the law was used as a weapon rather than a shield.
And what of honor?
Mercury continues, turning to another part of the pillar, this one showing a figure on horseback, sword raised in a salute to a crowd below.
Honor is even more fragile. It is often just a mask, worn by those who crave glory and recognition. Beneath it, you'll often find greed, ambition, and the thirst for dominance.
He grins, his eyes flickering with malice.
After all, how many men of honor have stained their hands with blood in the name of their ideals?
For a moment, I am silent, his words settling in the air like the dust of ancient battles. There is truth in what he says. Honor and justice have, throughout time, been manipulated and exploited. But as I gaze upon the pillar, I am reminded of something deeper. Mercury, I say, my voice calm. You mistake the failures of men for the failure of virtue. Yes, there are those who have corrupted justice and worn honor as a facade. But that does not diminish the value of these ideals. Justice, true justice, is not about power. It is about balance. It is about fairness and equality before the law. And honor, true honor, is not about glory or recognition. It is about living in accordance with one's principles, even when no one is watching. Mercury's grin falters, but only for a moment.
But how do you define justice, Marcus? Is it the justice of the mob, where public opinion decides who is guilty and who is innocent? Or is it the justice of the ruler, where the king's word is law? Justice is malleable, shaped by those in control.
I shake my head. Justice is neither of those things. True justice transcends individual rulers, laws, and even public opinion. It is the recognition of a shared humanity, the understanding that every person, regardless of status, is entitled to fairness. It is not easy, and it is often flawed in practice, but that does not mean we should abandon it. Instead, we must strive to make it better, to ensure that the scales remain balanced. Mercury laughs, but it is a hollow sound.
And honor?
He asks.
Is that too a lofty ideal you cling to in the face of reality?
Honor I say, stepping forward, is not about perfection. It is about striving for virtue, even in the face of temptation. It is about holding true to your values, even when the world tells you to compromise. Honor is the strength to do what is right, not because you will be rewarded, but because it is who you are. I place a hand on the pillar of honor and justice, feeling the cool stone beneath my fingers. Yes, many have failed to live up to these ideals, but their failure does not mean the ideals are worthless. If anything, it proves how necessary they are. Without honor, without justice, what are we? We are mere animals, driven by greed and selfishness. But with these virtues, we can rise above our baser instincts and create something greater, a society based on fairness, on respect, on the rule of law. Mercury falls silent, his eyes narrowing. He knows that this battle is different. This pillar, this virtue, is not so easily corrupted. Justice and honor, though often perverted, still hold an unshakable power. You see, I continue, the Renaissance spirit is not about denying the flaws of mankind. It is about recognizing those flaws and choosing to rise above them. It is about striving for virtue, even when it is difficult, even when the world around us is filled with corruption. And that is what makes honor and justice so vital. They are not easy, they are not perfect, but they are necessary. Without them, there can be no society, no civilization. Mercury's grin fades entirely, and I see something in his eyes that I had not noticed before. Doubt. He turns away from the pillar, as if the weight of these virtues is too much for him to bear.
You're a fool, Marcus,
he says, his voice quiet but laced with bitterness.
These ideals will destroy you. They will leave you broken and alone in a world that cares nothing for such lofty notions.
Perhaps, I say, meeting his gaze. But I would rather stand for something, even if it costs me everything, than live without honor, without justice. For in the end, Mercury, these are the only things that truly matter. As I speak, the scales atop the pillar of honor and justice shift, ever so slightly, as though responding to the truth of my words. The path forward reveals itself, leading us to the final and most difficult pillar of all. The journey is nearing its end as we approach the pillar of wisdom and temperance. In the final test, we will confront the ultimate challenge of self-mastery. Expect a gripping conclusion that brings everything together. The final stage of our journey now looms before us. In the distance, the last of the pillars rises into the heavens, shining in the pale light of the setting sun. It is the pillar of wisdom and temperance, also known as the pillar of the man reborn, a monument not of physical grandeur but of subtle, unyielding strength. Unlike the other pillars, it stands unadorned, pure, and unmarred by the embellishments of human ego. There are no grand scenes of battle, no depictions of rulers or warriors. Instead, the pillar's smooth white surface reflects a quiet power, a power that can only be grasped by those who have tempered their desires and mastered themselves. This is the final test, the ultimate trial in the quest for the Renaissance spirit, the confrontation with our own nature, our vices, and our highest virtues. I approach the pillar slowly, my heart heavy with the weight of the journey. Beside me, Mercury is unusually silent, as though even he recognizes the gravity of this moment. The air here is still, almost sacred, and I feel as though the very ground beneath my feet is alive with the wisdom of ages. At the base of the pillar of wisdom and temperance lies a simple inscription, carved in ancient Latin. Sapientiae et moderatio, virtut regum, or in English, wisdom and temperance, the virtues that rule. I step forward, reading the words carefully. There is a sense of finality in them, as if they hold the key to the entire quest. These virtues, wisdom and temperance, represent the highest ideals of the Renaissance spirit, the ultimate balance between knowledge and restraint, between understanding and discipline.
Ah, Marcus.
Mercury finally speaks, though his voice lacks the usual bravado.
We have come to the end of your little pilgrimage. Tell me, do you feel wiser? Have you learned the great secret of life? Or are you still the same idealistic fool you were when you began?
I turn to face him, sensing that this will be our final confrontation. Mercury no longer grins or taunts. He simply stands, waiting for my response. Wisdom, I begin, is not something one attains in a single moment or from a single journey. It is a process, a continuous striving for understanding, for knowledge, for truth. And temperance, the ability to control one's desires, to act with restraint, is what allows us to use that wisdom for the greater good, rather than for selfish gain. Mercury crosses his arms, his expression unreadable.
So, you claim to have mastered yourself? To have found this mythical balance between wisdom and temperance?
I shake my head. No, I claim only that I am learning. But that is the point, isn't it? The Renaissance spirit is not about achieving perfection. It is about the pursuit of virtue, the endless journey towards self-improvement. For the first time, Mercury's eyes darken with something like frustration.
And what makes you think you can succeed where so many have failed? Look around you, Marcus. The world is filled with those who sought wisdom, who claim temperance, only to fall prey to their own arrogance and greed. What makes you different?
I pause, the weight of his words settling over me. What makes me different? I repeat, reflecting deeply. Nothing, perhaps. I am human, flawed like all others. But I recognize those flaws, and I choose to confront them. That is the essence of temperance, not to deny our desires, but to master them. And wisdom is not about knowing everything. It is about knowing enough to seek what is true, even when it is difficult. Mercury steps forward, his gaze intense.
So you think you can resist temptation? You believe you can overcome the vices that have destroyed empires, that have led even the greatest men astray?
I stand firm, my eyes locked with his. I do not claim to be immune to temptation, but I have learned that it is not the temptation itself that defines us, but how we respond to it. The Renaissance spirit teaches us to rise above our base instincts, to temper our passions with reason, and to seek wisdom, even in the face of adversity. Mercury's face twists into a sneer, though there is a flicker of doubt in his eyes.
And what will you do when you fail, Marcus? When you inevitably fall short of these lofty ideals? Will you abandon them, like so many before you?
I smile, a sense of peace settling over me. No, I will not abandon them. For even in failure there is wisdom to be gained. It is not about never falling. It is about getting back up, learning from our mistakes, and continuing the journey. That is the Renaissance, spirit not perfection, but perseverance. For a moment, Mercury says nothing. He simply stands there, staring at me as though he cannot quite comprehend what I have said. Then, without a word, he turns away, his form dissolving into the shadows of the fading light. His departure is not dramatic, nor is it triumphant. It is simply the inevitable retreat of a force that has lost its power. As I stand before the pillar of wisdom and temperance, I realize that this journey has never been about defeating Mercury, nor about reaching some final perfect state of virtue. It has been about understanding the nature of virtue itself, about recognizing that the pursuit of wisdom, temperance, justice, and honor is not a destination, but a lifelong path. I place my hand on the pillar, feeling its cool, smooth surface beneath my fingers. And as I do, a sense of clarity washes over me. This is the essence of the Renaissance spirit, the recognition that we are always striving, always learning, always growing. But we have one more pillar to gaze upon before we leave these grand halls. Ah, the pillar of reason and compassion, perhaps the most paradoxical of them all, for here we find intellect and empathy. Two forces often considered opposites brought together in a harmonious dance. As Marcus Antonio continues his journey through the grand hall of virtue and wisdom, he arrives at this pillar, knowing that without reason, compassion can be misguided, and without compassion, reason becomes cold and detached. Together, they form the heart of what it means to be a moral citizen in any society, past or present. Atop the pillar sits two statues. On the obverse side, there is Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategic thought, her hand resting gently on the shoulder of a humble healer. They are united, both looking forward, representing intellect guiding empathy. The reverse, however, is far more ominous. Here stands the statue of a tyrant, his face void of emotion, his logic sharpened to a cruel edge. At his feet lies the statue of a beggar, unseen, unheard. This represents what happens when reason is stripped of compassion. It becomes tyranny, ruthlessness, and a complete lack of humanity. It is a chilling reminder of the dangers of pure intellect devoid of empathy. But why are reason and compassion so intertwined? It's simple. Every action, be it the care of the body, the nourishment of the mind, or the nurturing of the spirit, requires both. Reason allows us to plan, to judge, to make sound decisions. Compassion ensures that those decisions do not harm others. Without compassion, a man may choose efficiency over humanity, justifying cruelty as the shortest path to success. Without reason, compassion can morph into self-sacrifice that benefits no one. A misguided charity that creates dependence or even harm. In every decision, in every interaction, both must be present. Whether we are debating public policy, tending to a loved one in need, or making choices about our personal health, reason provides the framework, but compassion gives it meaning. It is the beating heart behind every well-measured action, guiding us to not just act, but to act with understanding. Neglect either one, and you risk falling into the vices of this pillar: indifference, cold rationalism, or unthinking sentimentality. The greatest minds of history knew this balance, knew that wisdom without love is a sterile thing, but love without wisdom is blind. The journey through the hall of virtue and wisdom has come to an end, but the lessons it has imparted will endure. The Renaissance spirit, as embodied by your humble host, Marcus Antonio, is not a static ideal. It is a living, breathing philosophy, one that challenges us to constantly seek virtue, wisdom, and self-improvement. The virtues we have encountered, courage, justice, honor, wisdom, and temperance, are not mere relics of the past, but essential guides for navigating the complexities of the modern world. They remind us that, despite the chaos and corruption that often surround us, we have the power to rise above, to seek truth and goodness, and to shape our own destinies. As I leave the hall, I am filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The Renaissance spirit is alive, not only in the halls of ancient wisdom, but in every person who strives to live with virtue, to seek knowledge, and to temper their passions with reason. It is a spirit that transcends time, uniting the past, present, and future in a shared quest for truth and understanding. And so, the journey continues, one of endless discovery, endless growth, and endless hope. For as long as we seek wisdom and temperance, as long as we strive to live with honor and justice, the Renaissance spirit will never die. Thank you for watching. Our channel, known as the Renaissance Spirit, is dedicated to the pursuits of a just, equitable, and humanitarian world, and how and why we all need to be the solution to the issues facing us today. Video topics encompass areas including news, analysis, history, politics, religion, personal development, society, culture, social and environmental justice, and other topics of liberal arts and sciences, including ancient Rome and the Roman Empire, which is a great comparison and contrast of the modern world. Topics perfect for the true modern and egalitarian polymath, a person with an open mind and the thirst for truth in its many forms and disciplines, a journey through knowledge, reason, and time. The Renaissance ushered in a golden age and the pursuit of knowledge, knowledge both lost to time and yet to be discovered. It gave birth to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason and the Age of Humanism, embracing truth, knowledge, and an understanding and compassion for humanity and our shared history opens up the world to each of us individually and collectively, enhancing our stewardship of the earth and our relationships with one another. Living the Renaissance spirit means engaging with history not as a distant past, but as a living dialogue, constantly informing and enriching our present. And the Renaissance spirit is a reminder of our dialogue with the future, our progeny and posterity, our legacy. Will we grant them a future free from fear of climate change and tales of the end of democracy? Will they admonish us for our sins and omissions? Or will they remember us fondly as saviors of humanity and the natural world? Please take the quiz next to see if you're a Renaissance spirit. The Renaissance spirit, more than just a philosophy or style, but a style for living, learning, growing, and thinking. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. If you're looking to explore and experience life in the steps of the true masters of the Renaissance and free thinkers throughout our past, present, and future. So, dear traveller through time, let us continue this journey together, finding inspiration in the stories of those who came before us and those who come next, and forging a future guided by equality, wisdom, and compassion. Vive Renaissance Spiritus! History has not died, only our understanding of it. Until next time, peace.
In this earthquake, you think you stand tall, but here I wait to test you all. For virtue is lofty, but vice is sly. Let's see if your spirit can truly fly. You see the pillars rise, so noble, so grand, each with a statue of a goddess or man. They speak of virtue, wisdom, and might, but one of the vices lurking in the night. Civitas stands proud, humble, and fair, but Janus the two-faced is always there. For every citizen noble, loyal, and just, there's a heart filled with envy, power, and lust. Virtue and wisdom, they lead the way, but lurking in shadows, vices sway. Watch your step, oh noble soul, beware, for Mercury waits with his trickster snare. You see the pillars rise, so noble, so grand, each with a statue of a goddess or man. They speak of virtue, wisdom, and might, but one of the vices lurking in the night. Civitas stands proud, humble, and fair, but Janus the two-faced is always there. For every citizen noble, loyal, and just, there's a heart filled with envy, power, and lust. Virtue and wisdom, they lead the way, but lurking in shadows, vices sway. Watch your step, oh noble soul, beware, for Mercury waits with his trickster snare. Alia columne fortitudo et vides sacre paxque solventum nes litis acides, sensite fale compassione cita, inteneris cades, mensi nico in vita. Mercury, sinister, as the music descends into minor tones. Purpose in sapientia, alte sophia, sed in obscuris venis latet vitae, pericula latento sapiens, vigila Mercurius penitentatio tua. And reason, our reason, you think it's so pure, but without compassion, can it endure? For wisdom without heart is a barren thing, and in that emptiness, vices take wing. Mercurius penitentatio tua. Virtue and wisdom, they lead the way, but lurking in shadows, vices sway. Watch your step, oh noble soul, beware, for Mercury waits with his trickster snare. seeker of truth, but don't forget the arrogance of youth. For virtue is heavy and vice is light, and in my game you'll lose the fight. But test yourself if you think you can, for this hall was built for the virtuous man. Yet even the wise may stumble and fall, for I, Mercury, rule this hall. Virtue and wisdom they lead the way, but lurking in shadows vices sway. Watch your step, oh noble soul, beware, for Mercury waits with his tricks to snare. Walk these halls, O seeker of truth, but don't forget the arrogance of youth. For virtue is heavy and vice is light, and in my game you'll lose the fight. But test yourself if you think you can, for this hall was built for the virtuous man. Yet even the wise may stumble and fall, for I, Mercury, rule this hall.